Dubai, January 19th, 2010. Evening. The Al Bustan Rotana Hotel, room 230. The target. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh is on the bed, half-dressed, the phone still warm in his hand. He is relaxed. He is also alone. His security detail, the men who should be guarding his life, are a scheduling error away, stuck in Damascus. In his mind, he is safe. He is protected by layers of distance, a neutral city, and the hubris that comes with 2 decades of evasion. To Israel, he is enemy Alpha 1, and to the Mossad, he is the ultimate target, tracked, mapped, and now cornered. He does not know that 30 meters away, across the corridor in room 237, 4 men receive a single encrypted text, "Package in room." They wait 12 minutes. Time for the target to feel secure. Time for the heart rate to drop. Time for him to settle into the fatal assumption of privacy. At 20:36 precisely, the waiting ends. The lock on room 230 is electronic, a VIN card system, supposedly secure. But its memory has already been rewritten. A specialist, dressed hours earlier as hotel maintenance, used a cloned bypass card, stolen weeks prior, and a handheld programmer to inject a ghost key into the lock's operating system. The door will open for this key, and the log will register nothing. No entry. No one was ever here. 2 men step out of 237. Their movements are practiced, not rushed. One carries a small leather medical case. The other wears latex gloves beneath the cuff of his jacket. They use the ghost key. The lock releases with a faint click. They enter fast. The door closes behind them in just over 2 seconds. They are already standing over the bed. Al-Mabhouh looks up. He registers confusion. Not fear, not yet. The sight of strangers in his locked room is too illogical for immediate panic. The drug is succinylcholine, a neuromuscular blocker. It does not knock you unconscious. It paralyzes. The mind remains perfectly alert, trapped inside a suddenly inert body. Delivery is by injection, a standard 18-gauge needle pressed quickly into the left calf muscle. It takes under 2 seconds. He tries to stand. His legs fail instantly, a sudden catastrophic loss of voluntary control. He falls back onto the bed, his mouth opening in a silent, desperate effort to cry out. His vocal cords are already paralyzed. This is the true terror of the operation. The victim is fully conscious for his own death. He knows exactly what is happening, who is doing it, and that he cannot move a muscle to stop it. He is a living corpse. The second operative does not hesitate. A taser X-26, 2 seconds to the torso, then another to the temple. The shocks are not meant to kill. They are meant to disorient, to add massive cardiac stress, and to accelerate the collapse. His body convulses silently against the sheets. The third step begins at once. Suffocation. A pillow over the face. Pressure applied to the carotid arteries. No blood, no noise, no struggle that could alert the rooms next door. 4 minutes and change. 20:44. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh is dead. This was not merely an assassination. This was a message delivered in silence, a method designed to be surgical, almost clinical, and to leave no forensic signature beyond the microscopic. To the Israelis, this was the ultimate expression of capability. The staging begins immediately. The body is arranged on the bed, arms relaxed, head on the pillow, designed to suggest natural sleep. A bottle of his own heart medication is placed prominently on the nightstand. The scene suggests a sudden, fatal cardiac arrest. The team checks the room. No blood, no obvious signs of struggle. Only the faint, unavoidable traces of DNA and fingerprints. At 20:48, they leave. Total time, 20 minutes. Cameras will show calm men walking the corridor, taking an elevator ride, and exiting the hotel. One carries a tennis racket in an unsealed case, an utterly trivial, forgettable detail. By 2052, the 4 men are gone. To understand the meticulous nature of that 20-minute execution and the chaos it unleashed, you have to understand 2 things: who Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was and the sheer audacity of deploying a team of 29 operatives to kill one man in one of the most surveilled cities on Earth. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was not a politician, not a TV figurehead. He was infrastructure. He was the man who turned Hamas's rhetoric into reality. He was born in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, joined the Muslim Brotherhood at 17, and helped found the military wing of Hamas, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, at 22. His value was his role as a bridge. He linked Hamas's leadership in Damascus directly to Iran's Revolutionary Guard depots. His real title was logistics architect. He brokered the deals and built the supply lines that made them real, smuggling routes through Sudan shell companies in Syria and shipping containers labeled as agricultural equipment but packed with weapons. Grad rockets, Cornet anti-tank missiles, and tons of ammunition. Each shipment he arranged raised the stakes of the next Gaza war. Each deal deepened Iranian influence in the Palestinian arena. Israeli intelligence attributed 147 weapons transfers to his network between 2001 and 2009, an estimated total of more than 6,000 projectiles. In 1989, he kidnapped and executed 2 Israeli soldiers, Avi Sasportas and Ilan Sayadon, burying them in shallow graves. That put him on Israel's target list for good, but it was not the main reason the Mossad hunted him for 2 decades. Hamas had many fighters, but very few logistics architects. Al-Mabhouh knew the routes, the suppliers, the codes, and the safe houses from Tehran to Khartoum. He carried the entire operational chain in his head. That made him not only a target, but an operational necessity. The calculus in Tel Aviv was simple. Eliminate him, and you fracture the network long enough to slow the rearmament before the inevitable next conflict. When he booked Emirates Flight 912 to Dubai on January 19, 2010, the decision in Israel was immediate. This was the window of opportunity, but the window would not have opened without a profound operational lapse in al-Mabhouh's own security. The prevailing narrative focuses on the cameras, the assassins, and the passports. But the less-known truth is that al-Mabhouh was fatally exposed from inside his own world. In March 2010, Jordan arrested 2 Palestinians, Ahmad Hassanein, an intelligence officer linked to Fatah, and Anwar Shaibar, a mid-level official in Ramallah. They were interrogated and later extradited to Dubai. Dubai police stated that these 2 men provided Mossad with al-Mabhouh's travel details, contacts, and exact schedule. This was not merely a tip-off. This was a comprehensive information breach. Hamas called it treason by the Palestinian Authority, a claim that deepened the already bitter Fatah-Hamas rift. Whether the motive was money, coercion, or ideological hostility toward Iranian influence, the full truth remains unclear. But the implication is definitive. He was compromised by the very people he should have trusted. His elimination was a consequence of deep-seated internal betrayal. Even then, the Mossad needed more than a schedule. They needed access. They needed to bypass the high security of a 5-star hotel. This is where the technical preparation, the most delicate and easily overlooked phase, became crucial. The Mossad deployed a significant component of their team dedicated entirely to surveillance and system penetration. This was the preparation phase, executed while al-Mabhouh was distracted. At around 1945, while al-Mabhouh was attending a meeting in the lobby, the specialist appeared in the second-floor corridor. He was dressed like a technician, a maintenance worker, the uniform of the invisible. He carried a tablet and a black device, a lock programmer. The hotel used VIN-card electronic locks, encrypted key cards, and logging systems. These are supposed to be tamper-proof. But the specialist approached room 230 and used a bypass card, a master key cloned from a hotel staff asset 3 weeks earlier. The green light flashed, and the door opened. He did not enter. He connected the programmer to the lock's external panel and rewrote the internal memory in about 30 seconds. He was not disabling the lock. He was creating the ghost key, a code that would not appear in the hotel's logging system. The door would open, but officially, no one would have entered. He closed the door and walked away. The lock showed no sign of tampering. Hotel records would later confirm access to the programming interface at 1947. The manipulation took less than 3 minutes. The hotel's physical security was negated by a simple act of software infiltration. This was the new battlefield. But the team's exposure was not a failure of fieldcraft. It was a failure of the digital ledger. The Dubai investigation, led by Police Chief Dahi Khalfan Tamim, would later become a case study in surveillance forensics. Tamim was suspicious from the start. The victim's profile, the locked room, and the odd lock log, none of it sat right. He ordered a forensic autopsy. 3 days later, the toxicology report came back. It showed traces of succinylcholine in al-Mabhouh's blood and tissue. The body also showed electrical marks, consistent with a taser and petechial hemorrhaging in the eyes, which pointed to suffocation. This was not a heart attack. This was murder. Investigators collected more than 600 hours of surveillance from 47 cameras across the hotel, airport, and surrounding streets. The footage was startling. It showed 26 individuals arriving on separate flights with passports from Britain, Ireland, France, Germany, and Australia. They checked into different hotels but moved in tight, coordinated patterns. The cameras captured 2 supposed tennis players following al-Mabhouh through the lobby with their rackets in unsealed cases. A man and a woman registered into room 237 opposite his door and were never seen to sleep there. 4 men entered room 230 at 20:36 and left at 20:48. All suspects departed the country within 12 hours. On February 15, 2010, Dubai police held a press conference, publishing the faces and declaring they were 99% certain Mossad ran the operation. The world paid attention. The video gave faces and paths, but it was the financial trail that gave proof. Subpoenaed records from hotels, car rentals, and restaurants showed a pattern. The payment cards traced back to a single platform, Payoneer, an Israeli fintech startup known for freelancer payouts and e-commerce. The operatives used prepaid cards. They thought this gave them an extra layer of deniability since the cards were not directly tied to a bank account. The mistake was using the same platform for all 29 operatives. This created a digital footprint, a single pattern of transactions logged to one Israeli-linked infrastructure. This pattern, cross-referenced with the stolen identities, solidified the case. Dubai shared the data with Interpol. Red notices went out for 26 suspects. None were arrested. The question for the Israeli leadership was not whether they could execute the hit, but what price they were willing to pay for success in the modern age of total surveillance. The strategic effects were not binary. His death did not end the pipeline, but it shattered it. Within 6 months, Israeli reporting showed a measurable dip in weapons flowing into Gaza. His networks fractured, handoffs slowed, payments stalled, trust thinned. His 2 decades of irreplaceable relationships with Revolutionary Guard commanders and Syrian intermediaries could not be replaced overnight. But the operation also carried a crippling diplomatic cost. Britain, Australia, and Ireland expelled Israeli diplomats. France opened a counterintelligence probe. The European Union issued a formal protest. For Israel, key European ties were strained. The operation revealed a new doctrine of espionage. First, deniability matters more than invisibility. Cameras catch everything, but none of it forces an Israeli admission. Second, exposure is a cost of modern work. The goal is no longer to avoid detection completely. It is to avoid accountability that bites. The final frame of the operation is the question posed by Police Chief Tamim. Where do you find a real tennis player walking around with a racket outside its case? The answer is that you do not, because the team never meant to be invisible. They meant to succeed, and they did. The execution was clean. The aftermath was chaos. The morning after the assassination, January 20th, 2010, Al-Bustan Rotana Hotel, outside room 230. The maid approaches the door. No activity since the previous evening. No request for room service, no sounds of a guest preparing to leave. At 11:47, hotel security opens the door with a master key. They find him motionless on the bed. Paramedics arrive and pronounce death at 12:03. The quick surface read points to heart attack. The pill bottle on the nightstand supports the conclusion. The team's work was nearly perfect, but the victim's profile, Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, co-founder of Hamas's military wing, was too high. The locked room, the unusual pattern of the electronic lock log, all of it felt wrong to Police Chief Dahi Khalfan Tamim. He was not satisfied with a simple cardiac event. He ordered a forensic autopsy. For the Israeli team, the extraction was already in progress. The kill was merely the halfway point of the operation. At 20:52 on January 19th, the 4 primary operators were out of the hotel. By 22:30, the first wave of operatives had departed Dubai International Airport for Frankfurt and London. They were moving quickly, dissolving back into the global travel lanes they had emerged from only hours before. By 14:30 on January 20th, the remaining support and surveillance teams were gone. The departure was as calculated as the entry. They used the same fragmentation tactic for the exit, flying in small groups, with passports from 5 different Western nations, heading to a dozen different cities across Europe and Asia. This massive deployment, 29 operatives, was an extraordinary measure for a single target. It speaks to the man's strategic value, but also to the constraints of the environment. Dubai is a high-traffic, high-surveillance hub. The Mossad needed redundant layers. Multiple surveillance teams, communication relays, logistics operators, and a dedicated extraction team to ensure no single failure could compromise the mission. This scale was also the key to their identification. Investigators meticulously collected the evidence. More than 60 hotel employees were interviewed. They lifted dozens of partial and full fingerprints from rooms 230 and 237. They collected DNA from bed linens, door handles, and elevator buttons. They cataloged 14 hours of direct suspect footage and transaction records from the 19 credit cards linked to Payoneer. They pulled call logs from hotel phones that showed multiple outgoing calls to Vienna, believed to be a relay point for encrypted traffic back to a Tel Aviv command center. The Dubai police, realizing they could not physically arrest the suspects, opted for an unprecedented strategy: full public exposure. On February 15, 2010, the press conference changed everything. The world watched as Dubai police played surveillance footage and released high-quality photographs of the suspects. They named their aliases Peter Elvinger from France, Kevin Daveron from Ireland, Gail Folliard from Ireland, Michael Bodenheimer from Germany, Melvin Mildener from Britain, and 21 others. The details were almost comical in their brazenness. Gail Folliard, one of the key surveillance operatives, was seen on tape walking right behind al-Mabhouh at the airport. 2 of the suspects, Mildener and Bodenheimer, were seen checking in almost simultaneously using their European passports. The photos were high-resolution, sharp, and undeniable. Forensic review quickly confirmed that the passports were high-grade forgeries. The names belonged to real, dual Israeli-European citizens living in Israel whose identities had been stolen. The photos were those of the operatives. The team had exploited the trust and bureaucratic complacency of 5 sovereign nations. This public release was the true detonation of the operation. The execution was clean, but the aftermath was chaos. The diplomatic blowback was instant and severe. The Mossad had not only killed a target, they had committed a blatant act of sovereignty violation against their closest Western intelligence partners. In London, Foreign Secretary David Miliband called the use of forged British passports an affront to sovereignty and an insult to a friendly country. Britain expelled an Israeli diplomat. Australia's Prime Minister Kevin Rudd condemned the forgeries, calling them an affront to the Australian passport system. Australia expelled an Israeli diplomat as well. Ireland issued a formal condemnation and expelled a diplomat. the political storm moved across the continent. France opened a counterintelligence probe into reports that a Paris hotel served as a command node and, critically, suspended intelligence sharing with Israel for a significant period. The European Union issued a formal united protest. For Israel, the cost was real. Key European intelligence ties were strained, and the global use of European identities, a primary tool of tradecraft for decades, was severely complicated. The diplomatic price tag, though heavy, was accepted in Jerusalem. The target was gone. The network was disrupted. For the security establishment, the strategic value outweighed the political cost. Dubai's inquiry became a textbook case of leveraging digital forensics against traditional espionage. The timeline was rebuilt minute by minute. The investigation revealed subtle but critical details about the team's operational errors, the 99% that the operatives missed. First, the lock log anomaly. When the cleanup crew staged the death, they ensured the body was positioned for natural causes. They left the room via the ghost key, making sure the exit wasn't logged. But investigators realized that an attentive guest, especially one with a high-profile security threat like al-Mabhouh, would certainly lock his door from the inside. The lock log not only failed to register an external entry, it also failed to register an internal deadbolt engagement after al-Mabhouh swiped his card at 2024. To Chief Tamim, this suggested two possibilities. Either he was instantly subdued before he could engage the lock, or he was forced to keep the door unlocked. It was a silent admission of foul play. Second, the ghost of the bodyguard. The investigation confirmed that al-Mabhouh, just before boarding, canceled the flight and hotel reservations for two bodyguards who were supposed to follow him. He may have done this to save money or out of overconfidence. The Mossad knew this. Their entire operation was predicated on this last-minute, fatal lapse. The assassins weren't simply lucky. They were informed of his isolation just hours before the hit. Third, the psychological signature of the attack. The choice of succinylcholine was deliberate, demonstrating not only the Mossad's access to specialized materials, but also the psychological warfare inherent in the mission. The drug ensures the victim dies in a state of fully conscious internal panic and helplessness. It was a method designed to be surgically clean for forensics, but psychologically brutal for the target. A final act of cold revenge for the soldiers he had executed years prior. The operation also served a broader geopolitical purpose, the message to Iran. Mahmoud al-Mabhouh was a key point in Iran's efforts to project power into the Palestinian arena. His assassination was an undeniable signal to the Revolutionary Guard commanders. Israel can reach your assets anywhere, even in a neutral, heavily monitored country like Dubai. Following the operation, paranoia spread through the Guard. Iranian nuclear scientists upgraded their security. Travel protocols were tightened. The effectiveness of the operation was not just measured by the death of one man, but by the chilling effect on an entire state-sponsored network. Israeli planners later assessed that the 2012 conflict, Operation Pillar of Defense, saw fewer Iranian-supplied long-range rockets than feared. They credited al-Mabhouh's removal as a significant factor. His organizational knowledge, the personal relationships, and the logistical expertise, the very infrastructure he embodied, could not be replicated quickly. The ultimate paradox of Operation Dubai lies in the question of its success. By traditional metrics of covert intelligence, the mission was a monumental failure. The identities of 26 operatives were exposed, diplomatic ties were severely damaged, and Mossad's most crucial tool, the use of borrowed European identities, was compromised. And yet, the target was dead. The supply line was shaken. Iranian officials were rattled. Hamas lost one of its most effective operatives. The operation forced a new reality onto the world of espionage. It confirmed that in the age of omnipresent cameras, digital money, and forensic transparency, true invisibility is impossible. The goal has shifted. Return to the corridor. Dubai, January 19, 2010. 20:36. The door opens. 4 minutes and change later, the execution is complete. The assassins succeeded because their ultimate goal was not stealth, it was consequence. They accepted the exposure because the strategic value, disrupting Iran's pipeline and signaling a new capability, was deemed to outweigh the diplomatic price. They meant to succeed, and they did.